The massive alien ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear, and the next, 12 colossal vessels hung in orbit like dark metallic clouds. Each ship stretched over 10 miles long, their surfaces rippling with strange patterns that hurt human eyes when viewed through telescopes. Global panic erupted within hours. Stock markets crashed, religious leaders called for calm, and military forces worldwide went on high alert. The aliens, however, made no aggressive moves. They simply waited, their ships maintaining perfect formation above every major continent. 3 days after their arrival, they finally spoke. People of Earth, the message rang out simultaneously through every electronic device on the planet. We are the controllers. We bring order to chaos, peace to conflict, and unity to division. We have come to welcome you into our growing empire of harmonious species. The voice was oddly pleasant, almost musical, but something about it made dogs howl and babies cry. In the United Nations emergency session, world leaders gathered to discuss this unprecedented situation. "They're lying," said Robert, the U.S. president, his face grim as he addressed the assembly. "No empire in history has ever brought harmony through peaceful means." The British Prime Minister nodded in agreement. "But what choice do we have? Look at their technology. Those ships could probably wipe us out without breaking a sweat." As if hearing their doubts, the controllers chose that moment to demonstrate their power. Every satellite in Earth's orbit suddenly moved in perfect synchronization, forming a massive arrow pointing toward Earth. Then, just as smoothly, they returned to their original positions. The message was clear: resistance would be pointless. Over the next week, the controllers shared more information about themselves. They were a species that had evolved beyond physical limitations, mastering both technology and mental powers. Their empire spanned 47 worlds, each one peacefully integrated into their collective. "We have perfected the art of unity," their ambassador explained during a worldwide broadcast. The being appeared as a tall, silvery humanoid with multiple eyes that shifted color as it spoke. "Our psychic network allows all species to work together in perfect harmony. No more war, no more conflict, no more confusion." What the ambassador didn't mention was that this harmony meant complete mental domination. But humans would learn this truth soon enough. The world's intelligence agencies scrambled to find any weakness, any flaw in the controller's perfect facade. They found nothing. Every scan, every analysis, every attempt to understand their technology met with failure. The aliens were simply too advanced. In his hidden bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General James studied the latest reports with growing frustration. "There has to be something," he muttered, shuffling through papers covered in complex diagrams. "No species is perfect. They must have a weakness." But time was running out. The controllers had announced their plan to integrate Earth within the month. They described it as a gift, the ultimate form of peace through their advanced mind control network. "Think of it as an upgrade for your consciousness," the ambassador said, its eyes swirling with hypnotic patterns. All other species accepted this gift gratefully. Some took hours to fully integrate, others took days. But all of them found true peace and unity. The last week of human independence was marked by a strange mix of resignation and desperate preparation. Some people threw end-of-humanity parties. Others stockpiled supplies and headed for remote locations, hoping to somehow escape what was coming. But the controllers merely watched with amusement. They had seen this reaction 47 times before. Some species fought. Some begged. Some tried to negotiate. In the end, all of them submitted to the inevitable. What the controllers didn't realize was that humans were different. Not stronger, not smarter, not more technologically advanced, just different. And sometimes, being different is enough to change everything. As the day of integration approached, the controllers prepared to unleash their ultimate weapon, a psychic network designed to link and control every human mind on Earth. They were confident, perhaps even bored, expecting this conquest to be as simple as all the others. They were about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating humanity. On the day the controllers scheduled for humanity's integration, an eerie calm settled over Earth. The alien ships positioned themselves at precise intervals around the planet, forming a perfect geometric pattern that scientists later claimed was impossible according to known physics. At exactly noon Greenwich Mean Time, the sky turned a strange shade of purple. People everywhere felt a soft humming in their minds, like the distant buzz of bees. The controllers had activated their psychic network. In their command ship, the alien leader known as Prime Observer watched with mild interest as the integration process began. Having overseen 47 previous conquests, this was routine work for him. Status report, Prime Observer demanded, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. The network is operating at full capacity, reported tech specialist, her silvery fingers dancing over controls made of light. Human brains are showing expected resistance patterns. Nothing unusual. The controllers had perfected their technique over thousands of years. First, the network would map every neural pathway in the target species. Then, it would slowly override their natural thought patterns, replacing independence with obedience, creativity with order. Down on Earth, humans everywhere stopped whatever they were doing. In New York City, cars halted in the middle of streets. In rural farms across Africa, workers stood motionless in fields. In bustling markets of India, shoppers froze in place, their eyes staring blankly ahead. Phase 1 complete, announced tech specialist. Human motor functions are now under basic control. Beginning Phase 2, thought alignment. Prime Observer nodded, already bored. How long until full integration? Based on brain complexity, approximately 6 hours. Faster than the Floridians, but slower than the Zentari. Very well. Inform me when it's complete. I'll be in my relaxation chamber. But as Prime Observer turned to leave, an alert sounded. A soft, pulsing tone that hadn't been heard in over 300 years of conquests. What is that? He demanded. Tech specialist's eyes widened. Network anomaly detected. I don't understand. The patterns are shifting. On the main viewing screen, a representation of the psychic network appeared. Usually, it showed as a steady blue web embracing the target planet. But now, small points of red were appearing. Not resistance. The controllers knew what resistance looked like. This was something else entirely. Show me, ordered Prime Observer. The screen zoomed in on a human male in a small apartment in Boston. He was supposed to be standing still like all the others, but instead, he was smiling. And not just any smile. It was the smile of someone enjoying a private joke. His name was Dave, a completely ordinary computer programmer with no special abilities or training. But right now, he was doing something impossible. His mind was accepting the controller's commands while simultaneously thinking about something completely different. The aliens watched in confusion as Dave's consciousness seemed to split. One part obeyed their control, while another part wandered freely through memories of his childhood dog. This is unexpected, Prime Observer admitted, but it's just one anomaly. Proceed with the integration. But it wasn't just one anomaly. Across the planet, humans were responding to the mind control in ways the controllers had never seen before. A teacher in Tokyo appeared to be fully controlled but was mentally composing poetry. A truck driver in Brazil was physically compliant while his mind relived every football match he had ever watched. Sir, this is spreading, tech specialist reported, her voice tinged with the alien equivalent of worry. 42% of humans are showing split consciousness patterns. Impossible. Prime Observer slammed his appendage on the control panel. No species can maintain independent thought under the network. Increase power to the transmitters. The purple sky deepened to a dark violet as the controllers poured more energy into their psychic web. For a moment, the red anomalies on the screen dimmed. Prime Observer relaxed slightly. Then something completely unprecedented happened. The red dots didn't just return. They started connecting to each other. Sir, tech specialist whispered, The humans are forming their own network within ours. Prime Observer stared at the screen, watching as human minds began communicating through the very system designed to enslave them. It was like watching prey animals turn a trap into a playground. This, he said slowly, might be more complicated than we anticipated. By the third day of the integration, the controllers were moving from confused to concerned. Their command center, usually a model of calm efficiency, now buzzed with frantic activity. "I want answers, not excuses," Prime Observer shouted at the team of specialists gathered around him. "Why isn't the network functioning properly?" Head scientist, a controller renowned for her understanding of alien brains, stepped forward. Her normally confident posture was slightly bent, a sign of stress among their kind. "Sir, we've analyzed the human neural patterns and found something unusual," she said, projecting a holographic image of human brain activity. "Look at these sections. They're lit up in ways we've never seen before." The image showed colorful patterns flashing across the human brain model, not following any predictable path. "Humans appear to be dreaming while awake," she continued. "Their minds create entire fictional scenarios even as they perform routine tasks." Prime Observer leaned closer to the projection. "Dreaming? Like sleep cycles. Similar, but more complex. They create detailed imaginary scenarios constantly, even during normal consciousness. And when our control network tries to suppress this activity..." She paused, seeming almost reluctant to continue. "Go on," Prime Observer demanded. "The activity doesn't stop. It just changes form. It's like trying to hold water in your hands." Down on Earth, humans everywhere were experiencing strange effects. They moved through their daily routines as the controllers directed, but their inner experiences varied wildly. In a small diner in Arizona, a waitress named Lisa served food with mechanical precision, her body fully under alien control. But in her mind, she was on a tropical beach. She could feel the sand between her toes, taste the salt in the air, hear waves crashing on the shore. The controllers couldn't touch this inner world. Meanwhile, in a farming community in Ukraine, an old man named Petro worked his fields exactly as the aliens commanded. But as he worked, he remembered every story his grandmother had ever told him. The controllers could force his body to move, but they couldn't stop the memories from flowing. Back on the command ship, another specialist approached Prime Observer with a new report. "Sir, we're detecting multiple consciousness patterns in some subjects," he said, his voice tight with confusion. "Multiple patterns? Explain." "It's as if they have different personalities existing simultaneously. When our control suppresses one, another emerges. Look at this subject." The screen showed a woman named Anna in Moscow. The data flowing from her brain showed several distinct thought patterns operating at once. "Is she resistant to us?" Prime Observer asked. "That's the strange part. She isn't resisting at all. Her brain is naturally like this. Many humans show similar traits to varying degrees." Prime Observer stared at the screen, his multiple eyes blinking in confusion. In all their conquests, the controllers had never encountered minds so messy. In a laboratory section of the mothership, captured humans were being studied directly. The controllers had taken samples from different regions, ages, and backgrounds, expecting to find explanation for the anomalies. "Subject 27, what are you thinking about right now?" asked Medical Observer, speaking through a translation device. The human male, named John, sat calmly in the examination chair. "I'm thinking about my dog, wondering if my neighbor remembered to feed him. I'm also worrying about my mother's health, and I'm trying to remember the lyrics to a song I heard last week." Medical Observer's appendages twitched in surprise. "All at once? You're thinking all these things simultaneously?" John shrugged. "Of course. Isn't that normal?" For the controllers, it wasn't normal at all. Their highly organized minds focused on one thought at a time, moving with precision from concept to concept. The human ability to hold contradictory thoughts, to drift between ideas, to imagine and remember simultaneously, it was alien to them in the truest sense. Back in the command center, Prime Observer called an emergency meeting of the Conquest leadership. These anomalies are concerning but ultimately insignificant, he assured the gathered officials. The humans show strange mental patterns, yes, but they're still under our control. Their bodies obey. Their societies function as we direct. These inner rebellions are meaningless. But even as he spoke, a warning light flashed on the central console. Another anomaly detected, then another, and another. Sir, tech specialist said quietly, the anomalies are increasing. And they're changing. Prime Observer stared at the display as red dots multiplied across the human population. What had begun as curious neural quirks was evolving into something the controllers had never seen before. Something dangerous. Jack Miller had never been anyone special. Before the aliens came, he worked as a night security guard at a shopping mall in Ohio. He wasn't particularly strong or smart or brave. But Jack had one unusual quality. He had an extremely active imagination. Even as a child, Jack could lose himself for hours in made-up worlds. His teachers called it daydreaming. His parents called it not paying attention. Jack called it his other life. Now, as he stood motionless in his apartment under alien control, Jack's imagination was running wild. In his mind, he was exploring an enormous library filled with every book ever written. He wandered through endless shelves, picking up volumes at random, absorbing their contents. But something strange was happening. The library in Jack's mind began to change. Suddenly, he could see glowing purple threads running through the air between the books. They pulsed with energy, humming with alien thoughts. Those don't belong here, Jack thought, reaching out mentally to touch one of the threads. The moment his imaginary hand made contact, a jolt of awareness shot through him. These weren't just imaginary threads. They were the actual pathways of the controller's psychic network, somehow visible in his mind's landscape. Jack froze, afraid the aliens would notice his discovery. But they didn't seem to be paying attention to his inner world at all. To them, he was just another controlled human, standing obediently in place. Cautiously, Jack grabbed one of the purple threads and pulled it. To his shock, it moved. The alien command flowing through it, something about maintaining regular breathing patterns, diverted slightly. Jack tried changing the thread's color in his mind, turning it from purple to blue. Instantly, the command shifted, now regulating his heartbeat instead. I can control the network, Jack realized with growing excitement. From the inside. Across town, Mary Winters was having her own strange experience. A retired computer programmer, Mary had always thought of her mind as a complex system. Inputs, processing, outputs. When the alien control took hold, she automatically began analyzing it the same way she would debug software. In her mental workspace, she could see the alien commands as packets of information flowing through her consciousness. And like any good programmer, when she found unfamiliar code, she started experimenting with it. Mary discovered that if she thought of the alien instructions as misdirected emails, she could forward them elsewhere, to her houseplant, to her microwave, or back into the network itself. The aliens didn't notice the difference. As she gained confidence, Mary began redirecting more commands. Instead of making her stand still, she sent the instruction to her reflection in the mirror. Instead of keeping her eyes forward, she directed the command to control her left pinky finger twice. Without realizing it, Mary was creating backdoors in the alien network, small gaps that allowed her own consciousness more freedom to operate. Similar discoveries were happening all over the world. In Lagos, a young artist found he could paint over the alien commands in his mind, changing their meaning. In Buenos Aires, a chess player treated the control system like a complex game and found ways to put the aliens in checkmate. In Bangkok, a meditation teacher simply observed the controlling thoughts until they lost their power over her. Humans, it turned out, had spent their entire evolutionary history dealing with conflicting thoughts and desires. The alien control was just one more voice in an already crowded mental space, On the controller mothership, alarms were now sounding continuously. "Sir, we have a serious problem," tech specialist reported, her voice tight with the alien equivalent of fear. "A human named Jack Miller has somehow accessed the network infrastructure. He's changing the command pathways." Prime Observer rushed to the main console. "That's impossible. No species can manipulate the network from inside. Lock him out immediately." "We can't, sir. He's not attacking from outside. He's somehow turning the network itself against us, and he's not alone. Thousands of humans are now actively manipulating our commands." On the main screen, a map of Earth showed spreading points of bright red light. Humans who had not only resisted control, but had begun actively changing how the network functioned. "Increase power to all transmitters," ordered Prime Observer. "Full suppression protocols." The controllers poured more energy into their system, trying to overwhelm the human resistance. For a moment, the red lights dimmed. Then Jack, deep in his mental library, found what looked like a power line among the purple threads. In his imagination, he threw a book at it. The connection sparked and reversed. Across the world, humans felt the alien grip weaken. And as it did, they pushed back harder, their minds finally awakening to their own power. On the mothership, Prime Observer watched in disbelief as the network status indicators shifted from green to yellow to red. "This," he whispered, "was not in any of our simulations." By the fifth day, the controller's command center had descended into chaos. Emergency lights flashed as specialists rushed between stations, their normally perfect composure completely shattered. "The human named Jack has connected with 17 others," shouted one technician. "They're forming what appears to be a counter-network." Prime Observer stood at the center of the storm, his multiple eyes darting between status displays. For the first time in his 300-year career conquering worlds, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. "How is this happening?" he demanded. "Our network is impenetrable." Head scientist approached with new data. "Sir, we've identified the core issue. Human neural plasticity exceeds anything we've ever encountered. Their brains physically rewire themselves in response to our control signals." She displayed a holographic image showing human neurons creating new connections at incredible speeds. "While our other subject species have fixed neural pathways that we can override, humans are constantly creating new pathways. When we block one, they simply build another." Down on Earth, Jack had discovered something even more powerful than his ability to manipulate the alien network. He had found that he could share his technique with others. In his mental library, Jack had created a simple instruction manual. When he focused on sending this book to someone else through the alien network, that person suddenly gained the same abilities he had. They, in turn, could pass the knowledge on. Mary, the retired programmer, took Jack's basic technique and improved it. She created what she called mental firewalls, barriers that filtered out alien commands while allowing human thoughts to pass freely. She shared this upgrade through the growing human counter network. Within hours, millions of humans had awakened to their new abilities. The alien control signals didn't disappear, but humans could now choose which to accept and which to redirect or ignore. On the controller mothership, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. "Sir, we have reports of system failures throughout the fleet," reported the engineering chief. "Navigation, life support, even basic functions are glitching." "How is this connected to the humans?" Prime Observer demanded. "Their reverse signals are following our network back to our ships," explained tech specialist. "Human consciousness is infiltrating our systems." This was unprecedented. The controller's technology was based on the same principles as their psychic network, organized, logical thought patterns converted into energy. But human thoughts weren't organized or logical. They were chaotic, emotional, contradictory, and now they were flooding into alien systems designed only for order. It was like pouring water into a machine built only for processing solid objects. A junior officer rushed in. "Sir, the crew of Transport Ship 7 is reporting hallucinations. They're seeing human imagery, oceans, mountains, strange animals. Prime Observer's skin paled. Lock down all mental connections to the fleet immediately. Too late, said tech specialist quietly. The humans have already established too many pathways. In orbit around Earth, the massive controller ships began behaving erratically. One vessel drifted out of formation. Another's lights flickered in patterns that seemed to match human music. A third began transmitting poetry instead of status reports. Inside the ships, alien crew members experienced something they had never known before: human dreams. Their ordered minds, capable of only one thought at a time, were overwhelmed by the flood of images, emotions, and wild possibilities that humans took for granted. Some controllers simply shut down, their consciousness retreating to escape the chaos. Others became fascinated, losing themselves in human thoughts, forgetting their duties entirely. Back on Earth, humans were discovering that their mental abilities went beyond just resisting control. They could actively influence the alien technology around them. In Kansas, a farmer named Bill found he could make the alien monitoring devices hovering over his field dance like fireflies simply by imagining it. In Egypt, a tour guide discovered she could change the color of an alien barrier by humming different notes. In South Korea, a group of students realized they could send their own messages through the alien communication systems just by thinking in rhythm together. Prime Observer called an emergency council of the highest-ranking controllers. "We must retreat immediately," he told them, his voice hollow with defeat. "The human consciousness is spreading through our fleet like a virus. If we stay, we risk losing not just this conquest, but our entire way of thinking." "But no species has ever defeated the network," protested one council member. "It's the foundation of our empire." "No species until now," Prime Observer replied. "These humans, their minds evolved differently than ours. What we see is chaos and weakness. Their emotional thinking, their dreams, their ability to hold contradictory thoughts, has become their strength against us." As he spoke, the lights in the council chamber began to flicker, and every controller present felt a strange sensation, the gentle touch of human imagination reaching out to them across the void. Tom Weber had never used his military training quite like this. As a former strategic operations specialist for the Army, he understood one thing very well. When fighting a superior enemy, you don't target their strengths. You target their assumptions. The controllers think in straight lines, Tom explained to the group gathered in his living room. Though they weren't physically there, their bodies remained wherever the aliens had positioned them. Their minds had connected through the psychic network. Jack, Mary, and 30 others from around the world were now part of what they called the Resistance Hub, a mental meeting place where they coordinated their efforts. "We need to stop fighting their control directly," Tom continued. "Instead, we need to introduce so much noise that their system can't function." Mary's mental projection nodded. "Like a denial-of-service attack in computing. We flood their network with so much random data that it crashes." "Exactly," Tom said. "Humans are naturally good at mental noise. We need everyone to think as chaotically as possible. Daydream. Remember childhood songs. Picture impossible things. The more random and emotional, the better." Jack helped spread the message through his ever-expanding web of awakened minds. Within hours, millions of humans were deliberately filling their thoughts with the most illogical emotional content they could imagine. Children were particularly effective at this. Their natural ability to create impossible scenarios. Dragons having tea parties, talking animals, houses made of candy, generated exactly the kind of chaotic thought patterns that disrupted the alien network. On the controller mothership, systems were failing faster than they could be repaired. "The human known as Tom Weber is coordinating a mental attack," reported intelligence officer. "They're deliberately generating thought patterns that our systems cannot process." Prime Observer watched the main display as sections of their network turned red, then black, indicating complete failure. What exactly are they thinking that causes such disruption? The intelligence officer seemed uncomfortable. It's difficult to explain. Many are imagining scenarios that violate physical laws. Others are experiencing emotional states that contradict each other. Some are simply remembering music. Music? How can remembering sound patterns affect our network? Human music contains mathematical patterns combined with emotional responses. Our systems can process one or the other, but not both simultaneously. This was the fundamental difference the controllers had failed to understand. Their own consciousness evolved for perfect logical efficiency. Each thought followed the next in perfect order. Their technology reflected this. Logical systems processing logical inputs. Human consciousness, by contrast, evolved for survival in chaotic environments. Human brains could hold contradictory ideas, mix logic with emotion, and create entirely fictional scenarios while still functioning in reality. This mental flexibility, once considered primitive by the controllers, was proving to be humanity's greatest weapon. As Tom's coordinated mental attacks spread, the effects became physical. Alien devices on Earth began to malfunction. The purple tint in the sky flickered and faded in patches. Some of the smaller controller ships actually began to drift out of position as their navigation systems received impossible commands. We've identified a particular human thought pattern that seems especially disruptive, reported tech specialist. They call it irony, the appreciation of events that contradict expectations. And this, irony, damages our systems. Prime Observer asked, struggling to understand. Our network is designed to sort information into clear categories. When humans find pleasure in something being in two contradictory categories at once, it creates processing conflicts. On Earth, humans were discovering more effective techniques by the hour. A group of poets found that metaphors, describing one thing as if it were another, created particularly strong disruptions. Comedians discovered that jokes, especially those playing on words with multiple meanings, could temporarily disable nearby alien technology. Tom coordinated these discoveries, organizing the mental resistance into specialized groups. Some focused on disrupting alien communications. Others worked on interfering with the controller ship's systems. A particularly talented group of lucid dreamers found they could actually project human emotions directly to the alien crews, causing confusion and disorientation. In his military days, Tom had learned that no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. But in this case, the chaos of human thought was the plan. They expected us to resist logically, Tom explained to the hub, to fight back in ways they could predict and counter. But humans don't think logically. We feel, we dream, we contradict ourselves, and they have no defense against that. In the controller fleet, the situation had become critical. Ship systems were failing faster than they could be restored. Crew members were experiencing human emotions for the first time. Some were paralyzed by the unfamiliar sensations, while others became fascinated, neglecting their duties to explore these new mental states. Prime Observer faced the hardest decision of his long career. Their most advanced weapon, the psychic control network, had been turned against them. Their technological advantage was rapidly disappearing as humans learned to manipulate alien systems with thought alone. "Prepare for emergency withdrawal," he ordered finally. "The conquest of Earth is suspended." As the command went out, he felt something strange in his own mind, a small spark of an unfamiliar thought. For just a moment, Prime Observer found himself wondering what it might be like to dream. 1 year after the controller's fleet disappeared from Earth's skies, the world had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The massive alien ships had retreated in disarray, their perfect formation broken, their crews in disarray. But they had left something behind, their psychic network. Though no longer used for control, the invisible web connecting human minds remained, now entirely under humanity's direction. Jack stood on the roof of the new Global Coordination Center, looking out over the rebuilt city. Once just an ordinary security guard, he now headed the department responsible for teaching people how to use their new mental abilities. "Beautiful view," Mary said, joining him at the railing. As the chief architect of what people now call the human network, She had transformed the alien control system into something beneficial, a way for humans to share knowledge, experiences, and support across the globe. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," Jack replied. "Sometimes I wake up expecting to see those purple ships still hanging in the sky." The two of them represented different aspects of humanity's response to the alien technology. Jack focused on individual connection, helping people develop their mental abilities. Mary worked on the infrastructure, ensuring the network served human needs rather than controlling them. Tom, meanwhile, had taken on a different challenge entirely. After the controllers retreated, they left behind many of the species they had previously conquered. These beings, 47 different types from across the galaxy, had spent generations under alien control. Their minds had never developed the resistance that humans had shown naturally. In a large hall in the building below, Tom was conducting one of his regular teaching sessions, surrounded by a diverse collection of alien visitors, some with multiple limbs, others with no visible body at all. He patiently explained the concept of imagination. "Don't try to think in straight lines," he told them. "Let your mind wander. That's not a failure, it's a strength." A tall, crystalline being raised what appeared to be an arm. "But precision brings efficiency," it said in a musical voice. "Random thought wastes energy." Tom smiled. Sometimes the most important discoveries come from those wasted thoughts. Dreams and daydreams let you imagine possibilities that pure logic might miss. These lessons were being repeated all across Earth as humans helped the former subjects of the controllers rediscover their mental freedom. Some species adapted quickly, their natural thought patterns returning after centuries of suppression. Others struggled, their minds so shaped by alien control that freedom felt frightening. But all of them recognized that humans had accomplished something remarkable, not just resisting the most powerful psychic technology in the galaxy, but turning it to their own purposes. In what had once been the United Nations building, now called the Galactic Embassy, representatives from Earth met with delegations from the formerly controlled worlds. Unlike the controllers, humans had no interest in creating an empire. Instead, they offered partnership, sharing their unique mental techniques while learning from the advanced knowledge of older species. The controllers fundamentally misunderstood what consciousness is for, explained the human representative to a group of visitors. They saw minds as machines for processing information efficiently. But minds evolved for something else entirely, for finding meaning, for connecting with others, for imagining new possibilities. Far from Earth, the controller fleet had withdrawn to their home system. Their empire, built over thousands of years, had collapsed in mere weeks. Without their mind control technology, the controllers had no way to maintain their dominance over other species. Prime Observer, once the supreme commander of the Conquest Fleet, now faced a council of his peers. His multiple eyes no longer shifted with confidence but remained downcast. "Your failure is unprecedented," stated the council leader. "No species has ever resisted the network. Yet humans not only resisted but reversed it. They think differently than any species we have encountered," Prime Observer explained. "Their neural patterns embrace chaos rather than order. They experience multiple thought streams simultaneously. They actually enjoy contradictions." The council leader's expression showed disgust. Such primitive mental structures should have made them easier to control, not harder. "That was our mistake," Prime Observer replied. "What we saw as primitive was actually advanced in ways we didn't understand." Back on Earth, humans continued to explore their new abilities. The alien network, once a tool of oppression, had become a means of bringing people together across traditional boundaries of language, culture, and distance. Children born after the invasion grew up taking these abilities for granted. To them, sharing thoughts directly with friends, experiencing the memories of their grandparents, or connecting mentally with people across the world was simply normal. The controllers had arrived expecting to find yet another species to add to their collection. Instead, they had discovered something they never imagined possible: minds that turned chaos into strength, contradiction into creativity, and dreams into power. As night fell over the coordination center, Jack looked up at the stars. The galaxy had suddenly become a much larger place for humanity, and humanity had become something new in the process. They wanted to control our minds, he thought. Instead, they set them free.